One of my favorite videos was the cisgender intersectional recruitment video we saw last week, or excuse me, the CIA recruitment video. It brought a tear to my eye, but it wasn't as good as this one. Inspiring story of a young woman who was raised by two moms, one of which was paralyzed for a period of time before learning to walk again and marrying her wife at the altar.
This is the story of a soldier who operates your nation's Patriot missile defense systems. It begins in California, with a little girl raised by two moms. Although I had a fairly typical childhood, took ballet, played violin, I also marched for equality. I like to think I've been defending freedom from an early age. When I was 6 years old, one of my moms had an accident that left her paralyzed. Doctors said she might never walk again. But she tapped into my family's pride to get back on her feet, eventually standing at the altar to marry my other mom. With such powerful role models, I finished high school at the top of my class, and then attended UC Davis, where I joined a sorority full of other strong women. But as graduation approached, I began feeling like I'd been handed so much in life, a sorority girl stereotype. Sure, I'd spent my life around inspiring women, but what had I really achieved on my own? One of my sorority sisters was studying abroad in Italy. Another was climbing Mount Everest. I needed my own adventures, my own challenge. And after meeting with an Army recruiter, I found it. A way to prove my inner strength and maybe shatter some stereotypes along the way. I'm U.S. Army Corporal Emma Malone Lord, and I answered my calling.
Oh, such a good video. Makes me want to join my two dads and people's two dads who know we're in the Army. Now I know that I too can be part of that. And my dad, who had his foot shot off in a shotgun accident with Dick Cheney, it's so good. My other dad, nursed him. I remember when at the country club, they told him to take off his phallic penis necklace that Tom Ford gave him for his birthday. And he said, "No, I'm not going to do that. That's homophobic." God bless my dad. My dad's. These videos are very specific. Very, very, very specific. It's like, who are you selling this to? It's the overarching agenda of just identity politics at play. It's nothing to do with no one would ever commit the funds and the monies to the specific video for the specific. Is that woman even LGBTQ, or she's derivatively associated with LGBTQ because her parents are lesbians? It's so weird. Why is this happening? CIA, Army, it's happening because of Biden. But it also seems to, Trump wouldn't have this power if this was his agenda. Well, actually, he might, because I think the deep state wants this to happen. They know it's the most powerful thing in terms of motivating people and changing the powers that be in terms of civil liberties and deferring civil liberties to a greater good for the sake of others, which is very altruistic. It abides to the idealism of young people, but it's not. It's a little fucking crazy. It's this is to stop thinking about yourself. They know what's best for you. It's so weird. They shut up and do what they tell you. You don't know what you're talking about. You're selfish. You're white. They're white. They're white. The white anti-white shit. They're white. They're paying for that message. What are you doing? It's so weird. Think about it. Just think for a second that the people that are telling you that white supremacy is the worst thing in the world right now are white. Are they just self-deprecating white people? Could you possibly think for a second they're saying this to manipulate you? Why can't that be said without it being a conspiracy theory? Joe Biden's all of a sudden woke. Like, do you think Joe Biden has these ideas about, like, come on. He's like, he can barely talk. Doesn't remember whether he's the husband or the wife in his own relationship. But he knows, like, he's very BLM, and he knows all about, like, come on, are you crazy? It's so fake. That's what's racist about it. It's fake. I tweeted today about old people. I said, like, old people scare me. I said, like, 'cause I think about fucked up things all the time. I think, like, I'm more depraved than, like, the average person, but even more than that, like, everything that young people think about, or, like, culture, there's all this negativity, and, like think about porn, think about, like, all these things, and, like, they don't think about that. They're definitely not having sex anymore, so they don't think about that. They're so ugly. Who would have sex with them? They're old and wrinkly. I don't know. But then I think about, like, the porn I watch where there's always this, like, I don't know, guy sleeping with a grandmother. I'm like, oh, maybe that's not the case, you know? Maybe it's possible. But do they even watch that or think about that? Or is this a select group of grandmothers who are still having sex as porn stars? And then I think about, like, well, maybe, you know, Wizard of Oz, it was being filmed in, like, 37, 38, and came out in, like, 39. The midgets, or the Oompa Loompas, no. The little people in that movie would have orgies, cocaine, and, like, wild sex parties. That it's really, like, old people who were not old in 1938 knew about that. And if the the tiny ones, if they, you know, I don't know, like, that's known. Surely they can't come up with that on their own. So, like, they saw other normal people doing that. And those normal people having orgies are now old. And while their orgy days might be, like, past, they still know about the orgies. So all the fucked up shit I think about, they still think about. They have thought about. So there's no reason to say, hey, by the way, like, you know, don't be afraid of the old people, because they're just as fucked up as you are. It makes me feel good, because next time I see, like, my grandmother, I won't, like, ignore her. I don't know. I could send her more fucked up birthday cards. Maybe.